It's working.
Oh, we're live on Facebook now.
It's working. All right, everybody, we're live for the second Monday meetup this week with Race Invaders with their Mazda Miata, affectionately known as Greta. And this team is based out of Portland, Oregon. If you guys don't know them, we got Martin, Phil, Gregor, Josh, and I think Mitch is coming later, maybe.
So we here.
Well, why don't we start off with you guys tell me a little bit about how the team started and how you guys all met and what you drove before, and yeah.
Martin, you want to take that?
Sure. So Mitch, who hasn't joined us yet, years ago bought this white, unassuming Miata that was actually a really nice little street car, matching hardtop, all this jazz. And, I'm going to take the story way back. When I was a little kid, like 8, 9 years old, moved into a neighborhood, and there was this guy with his time, not knowing any better, really nice Subaru STIs. Now that I've gotten older, I know that Subarus suck, but at the time it was really cool. What I didn't know was that guy was Mitch. And then fast forward, like, I don't know, 15 years, somebody posts that they have some stock Miata wheels for sale. So I drive over there. I'm like, this is a familiar house. And I was like, this is just down the street from our old house. Lo and behold, Mitch had that STI at the time. And he sold me some stock wheels. And I saw his white Miata in the garage. He's like, yeah, I'm going to build this into a race car. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. And then I went over there to help him. And I think I texted Josh one day with a picture of a bucket of wiring because we had removed the entire wiring harness and then cut the ends off of everything. And at that time, I had no idea what I was doing. I still don't. And Mitch had no idea what he was doing. So then Josh got involved in this to help start building the car. And that's kind of how it all started. And then I think, second race? No, second race. I think Gregor joined us for that race.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been going ever since. But I'll let you guys fill that in.
Yeah, their plan was cut the entire wiring harness off about a ½ inch from every connector, and then reconnect it with everything you'd need to get it running. And I told them that was a poor idea, wrong way to thin a wiring harness. So we, Martin was working at AR at the time. He was the only one of us working at AR. And they happened to have, I don't know why you guys had it, but you happen to have a newer engine out of a newer Miata. And it included about a third of the wiring we needed. So we bought the rest of the wiring off of eBay. And we put the newer engine in, and that's how it showed up at the Ridge, actually racing in WRL.
Okay.
Back in 2015.
Yep.
Yeah. That was the first WRL Ridge Lucky Dog race, I think.
Yep.
And WRL said Northwest sucks, you can have it. And then we've been with Lucky Dog ever since.
Phil, how did you get roped into this?
Me?
Yeah.
I had kids. That's how he got roped up into this.
I'm kind of the most recent guy, I think, but I don't know. Martin just was crazy enough to let me come drive the car one day, I guess. I did drive on Gary Anglin's team for a couple races, one of which went okay and one that didn't go okay. Both times the cars ended up crashing.
Yep.
One's real bad. But yeah, when that car was kind of over, yeah, these guys were nice enough to give me a chance. So what was the first race? I
think Laguna Seca, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah. That was a crazy way to start. Well, they're like, yeah, they gave me a chance because they're like, you have more laps around Laguna Seca than any of us. You should do good. I was like, I don't think it really matters because I'm used to driving a Porsche, not a Miata. So it was a little off, and it was like only my, I didn't really have a lot of experience with the momentum cars and no ABS brakes and all that, but gotten used to it and starting to get a lot more confident and starting to get closer to these guys. and their
For
speed.
sure.
So yeah.
Cool. And Gregor, I know a little bit about the story. I remember getting a phone call from Don Wentz saying, "We know this guy. He's really fast, and he'll come drive your BMW." And so you came and joined us driving the Rainbow Unicorn a few times.
Yep.
And then liked the Miata better, and vacated our team. And no, I'm just kidding. I remember one race in particular where you did double duty at ORP, where we drove.
Yep.
I don't know how many stints you drove between two cars. So it was.
Yeah. That was pretty fun. I was a little nervous about that, honestly, but it was pretty fun. It was good. But yeah, it started with Eddie had a car originally that he ran in Chump Car. So I ran with Eddie, I think maybe 3 times. We did a Spokane 24 and Portland, I think twice. And then he got rid of the car. It was too much for him to deal with at the time, I think. And so the next opportunity was running with you guys at Rainbow Unicorn. And that was great. And about that time, Martin and I had known each other from the track, of course, and linked up, and they had an opening with the Race Invaders car. And then we pretty quickly linked up and was welcomed onto the team, which is great. And I've been enjoying that ever since. So
Cool.
Yeah.
One thing that a lot of Lucky Dog teams don't know is that you guys, Martin and Gregor, you guys have traveled and driven with other teams as well at
Right.
Button Willow, at Willow Springs, Gregor with Barry Thompson and his teams. And
Yep.
you guys have pretty much driven on almost every track that Lucky Dog's been to. Maybe not Utah, but
Make
other
Utah,
than that, I think
unfortunately.
pretty close to the rest. So what are you guys' favorite tracks to drive?
Well, gee, I hear Area 27 is amazing. I haven't been there yet, but I'm looking forward to that on this year's calendar. So
Yeah.
I like them all. I mean, I think for me, it was a fun year and a half of being able to get down and learn some of the California tracks. So learning Laguna Seca, Sonoma, Willow Springs, Button Willow, just kind of opportunities to branch out a little bit from the Pacific Northwest tracks and learn some of those down there was really fun. So nice change of pace and a little longer season than we have up north here. So, our home tracks are nice. ORP and Portland are, great. The Ridge is close. All those things are really nice. But I think probably my favorite is maybe Sonoma.
Mm-hmm.
Josh has something to add?
No, waving to my wife.
Oh.
What about the rest of you guys? What are your favorite tracks to drive?
I think my favorite that I've driven is Area 27. I'm really excited to hopefully race on that this year if everything works out, because it has really kind of everything that you could want out of a track in terms of types of corners, elevation change, technicality, long straights for us to get passed on repeatedly, the works. But as far as tracks that we've already raced on, I still think that PIR is my favorite because it is so deceptively simple. Everyone's like, it's just a few corners and it's flat and it's easy. And generally I say, if you think it's easy, you're driving too slow on that track. And that's, I think, the challenge of it. That's not maybe the most exciting from you look at it and it's an exciting track to drive, but to go fast, I think it's really exciting at PIR.
Yeah.
The danger factor is high, which I appreciate.
Right. Yeah. Turn 10 and turn 6 and 7 for sure. Turn 6 is really underrated for how much speed you can carry through there and how you can get the line wrong and totally screw up everything. Phil and Josh, what about you guys?
I've only been at some local tracks, ORP, the Ridge, and PIR. I agree with Marvin. I love kind of using PIR to kind of base your progress over time. You can see how fast you've gotten because it's such a well-known track with times. ORP and I don't get along too well. I get a little sick there if I don't have if I I don't know, if I don't eat very well. And I really like the ridge. The ridge is great fun. It's got a couple of very interesting elevation changes and turns there.
Yeah, I think PIR, when the IndyCar guys first came there, it was 2 years ago, and there was some carnage, and they're all reporting that it was quite challenging, deceivingly challenging, and so it kind of echoes that idea. I think PIR is like a nice track to race on. Like I don't, I mean, it's not my favorite track necessarily to do a track day at, but like racing, it just seems like there's a lot of room. There's great passing areas. It seems. I mean, Martin likes it because it's got walls and you can crash into walls, and he likes the danger. But in terms of like, you know, avoiding car collisions and whatnot, it seems pretty good. It's wide, you know. It seems like at ORP and the Ridge, things get bunched up a lot, and you get a lot of narrow passages with other cars.
Right.
I had a great time, and I'm going to say this because no one's mentioned it yet, but we had a great time at Thunder Hill, the 5 mile. And if we didn't, I think if the car was doing a bit better, we had some initial from the get-go issues and some off-road adventures causing some problems. But like the car it was a great marriage of car and racetrack. Our car was just really good. And then one thing I wanted to make sure that you know, to put out there if we're like talking to people is the real thing to know about Race Invaders or Greta is that the car is not as fast as everyone thinks it is. Everyone, I think, thinks it's really fast, but that's just because these guys are very fast. I thought it was very fast until I became a driver for the team, and I realized like the car has capability of going quick, but it's definitely not quick on its own, and it really have to work at getting up to the speeds of some of the big engine cars. So and passing without a ton of torque, and you know you really have to take advantage of braking zones and corners to get around people. So yeah, the 5 mile at Thunder Hill just seemed to have everything there for that. You know, had a lot of tight sections, and then it also had some wide open sections where the aero on the car helped us. So that was probably my favorite driving so far in the car.
Well, that's a good segue into talking about the car, I guess. And that's one of the things that I like the most about Lucky Dog is that you can take any car that you have and develop it until you don't want to develop it anymore. And it seems like you guys have taken that to heart and over the years developed the car more and more and more and made it not necessarily faster per se. I mean, yes, we'll talk about the engine swap stuff later, but balance and braking and aero, you guys have really pushed the envelope on all of those areas, which is really cool. So it started off as a white Miata with a hard top, and then how did it get the name Greta? I guess we'll start with that.
Progress stalled pretty quickly at one point because it was over at Mitch's house, and it stalled pretty quick when Mitch's dog Greta passed away, and so he went through a couple of months of kind of dealing with that. He had another dog that was Teton. Teton was still around, right, Martin? Yeah, and so they were I think they were mom and daughter. Anyways, just both yellow labs.
Yeah.
So Greta passed away, and Mitch barely got any work done on the car, and then he finally like, you know what, I'm gonna do it in honor of Greta, and it's Lucky Dog. It's all about dogs, so he named it Greta, and that's how we entered it. I think at the first race, and we've had a dog tag, Greta's dog tag, on the shifter ever since as well.
Very cool. So we talked to Son of Andre last week, and we kind of touched on this lap time that was set at the 27th championship race at Portland, where they turned this 126 lap, and it kind of reinvigorated all the top teams to make the cars go faster. And is that when you guys made the decision to go away from using the Mazda engine and going to the Ecotech stuff?
I believe that is, Martin, I believe that's when we took out we as a team took out a Mustang.
We as a team?
Yes, and we as a team took out a tire wall as well. And we were just we kind of, once you're at the top of A class, you want to stay there. And we definitely were pushing it kind of 10/10ths every lap. And with the amateur drivers that we are, that leads to mistakes. And so we were just pushing the car. I think Martin would say it was fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But
it's always fine. The car's plenty fast. You just need to drive fast.
You just need to drive faster.
According to Martin.
Not making mistakes.
Blame Eddie for that 100%. That's, he tells me every time. So that's
So we just needed a way to get a little bit more power, just so we could honestly drive a little safer, along with the secondary benefit of being a little faster. So it was all in the name of safety.
Yeah, because that is one thing that you see with the smaller engine cars, is that you have to, with less power, you have to take more risks into the braking zones and get your passes done there, because you just don't have the power to take them on the straight. So
yeah, we couldn't and still can't pass a lot of people on the straights. We just don't have the grunt, really.
Right.
I mean, for the fast guys, it's a lot of work. I mean, you look at U-Boot and Son of Andre. I mean, there's a bunch of cars up there that just have a lot more push than we do. Right. So we really have to work it hard in the corners, for sure.
So currently it's a 2.4 liter. Is that correct? Yeah.
2.4 liter GM Ecotech engine, found in every GM economy car for like the last 10, 12 years, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a few other cars in the series running variations of that motor. Aaron Sloman runs a turbo version, and has all kinds of problems with it all the time. But you guys went through kind of some growing pains after you did that with flex plates and transmission issues and stuff. Is that fair to say, or was it?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was the kit that we use. And while we're talking about this, Matt at Ecotech Miata, the guy that developed the swap, has been a huge help throughout all this, because he's very responsive to like issues we've had, and we talk to him. And whenever we've had issues at the track, I've been able to message him and be like, hey, any suggestions? And he's always been very helpful. And he's kind of evolved the kit as time has passed, and so we've tested a lot of parts. It's been a really good partnership with him. Yeah. We definitely had some teething issues at first. Our first oil pan was in a bit of a bad batch of oil pans, and so our first test day, we were running and everything was good, and then all of a sudden, I don't remember if it was me in the car or Gregor, one of us was driving, and we see the car go down the straight at the ridge, and it got this like smoke screen coming up behind me. I'm like, bring the car in, and the pan had split on the side where it folds. And like, oh, that sucks. We pulled the pan off, welded it on that side before the first race. And then our first race with the Ecotech, we finished second at the ridge, and then we were leading the race with an hour to go the second day. I was in the car, and I start to smell burning oil. I'm like, oh, it must be that like car in front of us that's braking. Clearly it can't be us. I go down the straight, and I think Josh was on the radio, and he was like, Martin, there's a lot of smoke coming out from behind the car. And I look back, and there's just smoke getting like poured over the wing and billowing everywhere. I'm like, So I bring it in, and the other side of the oil pan had cracked that we didn't weld. And so we just kind of got rid of that pan and got another one. That was kind of the first big issue we had, but I'll let everyone else explain the rest.
Yeah, I think that running on the low oil caused that engine to fail, I think, at the next race.
Pacific.
Yep.
Yeah, that was Pacific, right?
Pacific, it let go. It just, it always had a little bit of piston slap, and then I don't think it liked the running on the low oil.
Right.
And then a couple of rear main seals went too.
Yeah, a couple of times we've pulled pulled the transmission and replaced it in about 45 minutes. I think we got lucky that happened at the end of some races, and we were able to race in the sprints.
Yeah.
Always seemed to be PIR, but it worked out all right.
Yeah.
So this I guess it was late last year, you guys, one of the latest developments, well, no one's really seen the car since in 2020, but you guys added ABS. Why'd you guys do that? Was that for reliability, for like protecting tires?
Just for me. It's just for me.
Just for Phil.
Definitely my favorite improvement of the cars thus far.
Yeah, it's funny because I'd gotten so used to driving it without it. I'm like, really didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. Even in the rain, the car is pretty nice to drive and pretty predictable. But, Martin was like, hey, we should do this. This is going to be a good improvement. And, this will help us, be more competitive. And after some initial teething issues, I think I'm just kind of getting things sorted a little bit. It's actually proven to be really a big benefit to the cars.
I mean, that didn't seem to have too much. That seemed to be one of those things that just kind of almost like worked right away, almost. Right?
Yeah. The first weekend we used it at PIR, we had a suspension issue that was then exacerbated.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
But then the next day we got it sorted out, and yeah, it's really nice because now you can literally drive into any braking zone, mash the brake pedal. The car will do what it's going to do, and then you just do your business. There's no thinking about locking up or anything like that. And I think part of it was at work at AR Motorsports, we have put this ABS unit in a number of different cars because it's a BMW ABS unit, but you can put it in pretty much anything. And having done that, and Josh has installed several of them and has experience with it, and we're like, oh, we could do this. And so we did it, and I think it's very much a worthwhile upgrade. I'm excited to finally try it in the rain at some point because every time I wished it never did. But yeah, we'll see.
I think the conversation started with electric power steering at lunch. Martin was surprised. He's like, "Oh, there's this electric power steering kit for Miatas that we can get, and it's pretty reasonably priced, and that might be kind of nice for some of the long stints." And I was like, "Power steering? Why don't we just add ABS?" And so he's like, "You know what? I'll order the parts if you install it." And so he started ordering parts.
That's how all conversations start.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
If you never, I never like tracked a car before that didn't have ABS. So for me, like years of track days didn't help me when I went to go brake in Greta, and I would just be like, where's all this smoke coming from? And like that car is like, I personally think the car's best feature is the braking, but it's only there if you can take advantage of it. So that lets me get the last degree of it out of it. So, and for me, that's usually the only time I can get around anyone is in the braking zones.
So when did you guys get, I'm trying to jog my memory, but when was your first win? Was it ORP?
Well, we won out there quite a bit. Let's see. I was just trying to look at that. Anybody know off the top of their head?
You guys were wearing black shirts with the skull logo on it.
That was Portland that those shirts.
I don't think that was our first win though.
We're born in Portland, but yeah.
Well, we won our best shirt award for the series permanently, and that was Mitch. I think ORP was our first win. Yeah, I think it was me,
Mitch.
Josh. Yeah.
Hi, Mitch.
Was Eddie had a stint at the end there, didn't he?
He did, yeah. There's a picture of Eddie like standing on the roof of the car flexing. Yeah.
Eddie flexes?
Oh, the
Mitch
more
is here. Awesome. So we're just talking about the first win for the team.
Oh, the first win?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
well, technically we won our WRL race the second day.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you could probably count that 2015, right?
Yeah, we technically won the second day. Yeah.
That was a fun event. I remember that event. We were running 2 cars at that event. So, but well, I guess let's talk about your favorite moments over the years. What are some of the things that you guys, your favorite memories of racing in Lucky Dog? Martin's like, I don't know.
Somebody take the lead on that one.
I don't know. There's been some good, we've had a couple of double wins that were really nice. We had a double win in Portland and a double win at ORP, and those are memorable, of course. But, as we, worked kind of through the evolution of the swap and those kinds of things, you know, we had a number of small to large issues to kind of work through, like any team does. And so we'd have split weekends where we'd have potentially a really good result on one day, then a not great result the next. So there's a lot of that. And, you know, it was, you know, felt like work, but there's always a little reward here and a little reward there. And, you know, Martin and Josh just work like crazy on the car and just wrench on it constantly and are always improving it. So we've taken great steps along the way, but I think, you know, the double wins really, I mean, it's hard not to just think those are the best, but also just individual, you know, stints were just really great driving with other drivers. I've had some excellent dicing with, well, Son of Andre, U-Boot, Finally Racing. I mean, a lot of those guys in the A class, you know, the top teams that we've had just some really phenomenal drives, and there's mutual respect, and everybody's, you know, playing hard and playing nice. We have really, you know, a really good time. So those, pretty much every race, there's some moment like that you really can take away something really positive from.
Yeah. What about the rest of you guys?
I think my favorite experience, Martin, you might remember this. It was one weekend where I actually had the fastest time in Greta of the all weekend. Yeah, and I think I had the only dry stint of the weekend, but that was probably my favorite memory. You know, rub that in Martin's face, and I still do.
You had the fastest time? Okay.
Yeah, because everyone else drove in the rain.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Gotcha.
But I count it.
One of my favorite memories of this car was actually not in a Lucky Dog race. It was when you guys showed up to the conference in Duro, Portland, and there's been over the years back and forth a lot of talk of trying to get some people crossing over and racing, people that have Lucky Dog experience getting into doing some conference racing and doing some enduro stuff and that. And there's always been the licensing requirements that have held a lot of people back. But I was there that year, and you guys came with Greta and ran on 200 treadwear tires and did phenomenally well. You did have some issues, I know that, but
I think that was one of the rear main seal failures.
Yeah.
We fixed it, and if I recall correctly, we still won our class.
Yeah.
Yep.
How many cars are in the class?
There wasn't that many cars.
Sorry, you broke up there, Phil. We couldn't hear you.
There wasn't that many cars in the class, but what it did do.
Wasn't that a meme recently? That was a meme recently. We won our class. How many cars were the class?
It's kind of like the SCCA in total, right? Like they have like 3 cars in a class. Dude, I podiumed.
Yeah, I'm the season champion for 25 years in my own class. Yeah. But no, what it did do though is it definitely pushed Lucky Dog forward in the eyes of club racing and what type of drivers and the talent that was in Lucky Dog. And you guys came out there and just kicked some butt. And it really, I think, helped move them forward in their thinking of allowing more people to be able to cross over back and forth. So I know that Lucky Dog's appreciative of that for sure. And I think this year, the fall enduro hopefully will have more Lucky Dog cars in it. So that's totally
great.
It was a good event, just like they need more participation. I remember the first time I went and watched it when I was younger, because, you know, you have the Le Mans style start, and like I've been dreaming of sprinting to the car and jumping in and driving off. We finally got to do that. It was really cool. But yeah, I think it would be a great race for Lucky Dog races to cross over into, because it's fun to share the track with. I mean, we were out there with Viper ACRs and like cars and Spec Racer Fords, and it's different and it's fun, and what endurance racing is all about.
Cool. I think the one thing that we showed at that race was hustle and the ability to like come back from, you know, a damaged car. You know, a lot of people there, like the Viper and stuff, they just pack it in if something happens.
Right.
And we were like, nah, we're gonna fix this thing, you know, and we did, and got back out there, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's not very often you can be in a Miata and share the track with a prototype or an LMP3 car or you know, a lot of the faster cars, Ferrari Challenge cars, etc. So that's pretty cool. But obviously with the high memories, there's always ones that slipped away, or something happened, or it happened right at the beginning of the championship race or something like that. What are some of the ones that just slipped away that you wish that one thing went sideways or whatever, and yeah.
Man, we've had
There's been a lot.
well, I mean, like I can't count the number of times we destroyed a ECU or a alternator early on.
Yeah.
That was a killer for us. And then I put it in the tire wall at corner 12 at PIR once. That was a real bummer for me, and I felt like I let everybody down pretty hard that day. Besides that, there's just been a couple mechanicals that have really killed us. Like we were at ORP and we lost the flex plate, and I think we're gonna podium, and I was in the car, and all of a sudden the car started making like the craziest driveline noise, and I couldn't figure it out. Came into the pits, no one's in the pits because like we were killing it. Why would anybody be in the pits waiting for me? I come into the pits, I'm like, where the hell is everybody? Come back out, we couldn't figure it out. We thought like we nut and bolted the wheels and tires. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but I started a lead out lap, and again, it was like this like clanging driveline noise. It ended up being an adapter that we had for our swap. Since that time, we've gotten a CNC part, but at that time it was just like a thin metal flex plate, and the flex plate disintegrated and essentially destroyed our transmission. So yeah, that happened twice or three times to us.
Yeah, I think that's happened twice.
Yeah.
No, three times.
Three times.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No more.
No more.
Before we did the swap, there was a race at the Ridge. We were leading or in the top three or something. I think Gregor was in the car, or maybe I was in the car, and we were switching. It was the last, I think it was Sunday, and we were switching. We at the time had a tablet instead of a real dash, and it was running off of like a Bluetooth thing from our ECU. Well, that tablet had all of our gauges on it except for our fuel gauge and our tach. So you had no idea what was going on with the car because that tablet would randomly shut off, especially if it was hot out. So I pull in the lights. I'm like, okay, Gregor, get in the car. Okay. Gregor gets in the car and the ECU catches fire. Well, it turns out the car had been running at 20 volts for the last like hour and a half and just
Wow.
The ECU. So we had so many alternator failures when we had the Miata motors in there. And I think that's honestly been the best thing about doing the Ecotech swap is we have never had an actual alternator failure, which is nice.
Well, then we figured out we had to like duct the alternator to cool them. And once we ducted the alternator a la BMW, that's what they do with all their factory cars, it instantly solved the problem. They were just overheating. And the diodes would fail and the car would fail.
Yeah.
So you guys have had a couple of guest drivers in the car over the years. You had Randy drive the car at Laguna.
Mm-hmm.
He was faster than Martin when he did that too.
Yeah, I think he was faster than
Martin
Martin
by a second or so, second and a half.
It was pretty close, I think.
No, I don't think it was.
It wasn't that close.
The thing that I found interesting about that was that his time in Greta matched the Audi R8 V10 car around Laguna.
Oh, from his test days, yeah.
From his test days, I was like, shit, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's one thing about Laguna is that because he's done so many laps there and Motor Trend has so much data on that track, it's crazy that you can look and see where these top A cars match up against, supercars on the street, on street tires, and how fast the cars are really going at the top of the field. Like in the January 2020 race, we had a car go even, I think, 2 or 3 seconds faster than any car's ever gone before. And that was a Miata as well.
Yeah, that was a silly Miata.
Yeah.
I think I was stupid.
Yeah. What about Kirk? Let's talk about Kirk for a second, since he's driven for both cars in the first 2 weeks of these meetups, but he's not admitted into the group here because he will share secrets back and forth, right? So
that's how it is.
I don't know.
Kirk is an amazingly talented individual with his photography and all the stuff he does on the track. So that was really nice to have him with us for that weekend. We had some electrical gremlins that we sorted out, fortunately, for the second day. But it was really nice to have him drive the car because Kirk spent a lot of time preparing for the weekend by doing a bunch of sim racing, and I mean he ran the closest thing he could. And after that weekend, we drove back together, and he was like, it was really, really helpful to do that. But he was very respectful of the car. Took care of it while he was out there, ran it reasonably close to its potential, and just did a good job. And I think he had a good time. I'm just glad we didn't give him 2 full days in the car instead of just the one because of the issues we had. But it was a pleasure to have him. I'm happy to have him race with us again.
Yeah, all the ribbing of Kirk is obviously in good fun. He's a great guy, and he can take it though. But what about upcoming races this year? I mean, this year's been totally screwed up by the whole situation that's going on, but I know you guys are planning to be at Pacific. What about past that?
Everything we can. Hopefully it'll open back up from there and we can hit all the Northwest events. Area 27. I'd be into going down to Willow Springs if we can make that happen in between things. That's a fun track.
In June.
To try it.
In June, yeah.
Somebody actually asked on Facebook, let's see, Michael Chang said, are you guys planning on running at Willow Springs? So I left that alone, but it is a possibility.
I mean, I'm game if we go through Pacific, if Pacific happens and everything is good, we have time and life isn't too crazy, I'd be willing to make the toe down. It's a long haul for one day of racing for sure. Especially on a Monday.
Yeah.
You can swing a couple cars into the trailer and make a break for it. Why not?
So Mike, I believe Mike is asking because Greta tags along with our Spec E46 that AR built, and Mike is one of the drivers. So maybe he's asking to see if he gets to drive down there.
Right.
Well, Mike, if you find 3 other guys who want to do it, we'll make it happen.
Yeah, it's a fun track.
Yeah.
Gnarly surface, but it's fun.
This is maybe a better question for offline, but Martin, given that there's been a couple changes to the car, are you planning on a test and tune before the race?
We were. Love to if we had the opportunity to do it. The problem is there's not a lot of days available. I'm looking into stuff, but I think if for whatever reason the Pacific race doesn't happen with whatever's going on in Washington, I'll definitely try to find a test day before we tow, 16 hours south to Willow Springs. But
I thought turn 2 is going to start doing days again. I don't know if it's before Pacific, but
I think it is.
Or P.
Yeah, or P. I'm starting to do track days as well. So
we're doing a few things. So we're definitely going to try to make it to something if we can. We just got to button up some loose ends on the car.
Kathy says, "Come to Willow Springs, please."
We haven't really done much to the car in the off season, so it's pretty much
right.
Yeah,
we actually put it back to stock. So
yeah,
right, yeah. Well, that'll lead into this next question then. So, one of the things that why I wanted to do this and chat with teams that have been around for a while and have some success and have had failures and stuff is to try and help new teams and one of the guys just asked a question, John Reimerchuk from A-Team. He says, what do you guys think about slower class cars and how to manage them? By the way, glad to hear you'll be at Area 27. So as an A-class car, you guys are the fastest class on track unless they're super dogs. But how do you manage, traffic and getting through safely and not wrecking everybody else's race too at the same time?
I just want them to stay in line, just race their race, and we'll get around you when we can. We have the ability to, out corner you perhaps, or maybe out power you in a straightaway. So we can make passes and get around you safely.
Yeah, the nice thing with Greta being a bit of a slower car too is we do still get to have some fun with any of the other classes. Even a B class car can hustle us down straight sometimes. So we still have to work at it. So it's fun, even racing. You get to race kind of with everybody, especially if you're, if we're saving fuel a little bit, you're racing with some C-class cars even. So it's good, and I don't know, maybe it's nice that we don't have to pass them at 5 times their speed, but yeah, they've all been really good to pass.
Yeah, I think the hardest part or the most challenging part are just really, really green drivers that, haven't learned to, put their head on a swivel and don't have good peripheral vision. So they don't know you're coming. They're just trying to figure out where they're going. There's been a couple of instances where people have just been really checked out and not aware of traffic. And that's when it's scary and dangerous. So, we have to be really cautious and take really calculated, chances and make really, careful decisions about how to get around people in those areas. But mostly, a lot of these people we've raced with for a bunch of years now, and we know kind of how their team drives or how those drivers drive or what to expect from a car. It's some of the new entries or some of the cars that bring in new drivers all the time where there's, we have to be much, much more on our toes with that. And that's where the danger is.
I was going to say, like, one of the things that I think new drivers or new cars might benefit from is a more frequent pit stop kind of situation, because I think a lot of new drivers probably get tired in the car a little earlier than, people who've had experience and kind of understand like what the race is all about. I mean, it can be a lot, when you're first starting out, and just getting a fresh driver in the car more often might be beneficial.
Mark Williams, I believe that's Mark from General Leaf, says these guys are one of the most polite teams when it comes to slower traffic. So that's a compliment to you guys.
That's great.
On track. And I know I've raced against you guys in a B-class car. I've also been in a Super Dog car, and you're still passing me somehow. But I think that's more me than the car. But
it's probably Martin in the car.
Yeah, maybe. What about format? What do you guys? What are your favorite formats? Like, we run anywhere from 7 hours to 24 hours. We've run sprints. We ran Utah tournament, which is going to happen again at the Ridge in September. What do you guys enjoy the most, or what's been the most fun?
Our favorite has been odd races because we can't quite make the 2 hour window, or we couldn't. So it'll be interesting now with the fuel cell to see how we do. But we love all the odd races because we're able to do about an hour and a half stint instead of the 2 hour stint.
Yeah, the long events are really fun too. I mean, we've done Button Willow a couple times, as guest drivers, Martin and I have, and that's a really fun, interesting track and just crazy to drive, over the course of 24 hours. The sprints added in Portland the last couple of years were really fun. That was just kind of a nice mix and a kind of a different taste of things. That was pretty cool, and a whole sort of different level of competition. But yeah, mostly I think my least favorite are those really short ones, like 6 hour days are just feels too short. The longer we can get, the better. 7 and 7, 7 and 8, 9 and 6, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you guys planning on doing the 24 at ORP?
I'm gonna say yes.
Oh man, Bill's favorite track, ORP.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Might as well.
It's so
Martin's always like begrudgingly like, okay, I guess we'll go to ORP, and then they always seem to do well.
How hard could it be?
What I would love to not have the track shorten at night.
Yes,
I know there's a turn station issue, and there's considerations with racing in the dark in the back, but having the track basically change halfway through the event is my least favorite.
Have that many cars on half the track would be crazy.
Yeah, it's like two different tracks. I'd rather see the whole track run the entire event.
So this is the first 24 that Lucky Dog has had in the Northwest since Spokane in 2016, I believe, 2015 or 2016. I can't remember. It's been a long time ago. But we decided we were going to bring 24 to the Northwest, and so far the cars that have signed up for that race, I mean, it shows that there's definitely people that want to run longer races, so it should be pretty well attended, and ORP presents a different challenge for a 24 than say Buttonwillow because of where it's located. You have to be totally self-sufficient for 24 hours and beyond, where Buttonwillow you can kind of drive to 20 minutes and you're at a Walmart or whatever. So but yeah, hopefully you guys should come to that race. They'll be good. But so what's new on the car for 2020? Since nobody's seen it, I saw it in February, but some things have changed, and you don't have to give away all your secrets. But
You tell them about the
Yeah,
V8.
pretty much post all the secrets.
all
Yeah.
about the LS swap, yeah.
I mean, we added the fuel cell, which should be a game changer for us because if you drive at full throttle, you will run out of fuel long before the end of a 2-hour stint, especially
It's an hour and a half, right, Gregor?
yeah, Gregor's
Yeah, it's been hard on most tracks. It's really hard to make 2 hours in the previous configuration. So the cell should allow us to get there, which will make a big difference, I think, just in relieving that stress and then helping with the pit strategies.
Other than that, I mean, we got a different wiring harness from Matt at Ecotech Miata, something a little bit more robust for endurance racing use. And then I would be remiss to not mention John, one of our techs at AR Motorsports. He has jumped in and helped with the car a ton with a lot of fabrication and changes to the car, like the fuel cell and cutting the entire front of the car off and the entire back of the car off to make things fit, make it lighter and make it better.
Some suspension geometry changes.
Ish, but like the car is different than it was at the end of the year. And then Josh has been rewiring it to kind of match up with that engine wiring harness we had, and we've kind of streamlined the wiring so it's much simpler. There's just less ancillary stuff that we don't need anymore. But it's just kind of like, have the fuel capacity to go 2 hours and then just simplifying and making the car better. And that's really it. We haven't added any power. We haven't really changed the suspension or the aero since we had it before. It's all really just been kind of optimizing what we have and being able to go the distance. And that's really the name of the game of this whole thing.
Another question I had is, a lot of people know that the car, a lot of the team either works at AR or has brought their street cars there, and so that gives you guys a bunch of resources that a lot of teams don't have. But you guys have also used things on the car from other sponsors like Autosport Labs and Pyrotech. So maybe just talk about how you use, like, I know the fuel cell came from Pyrotech, but Autosport Labs, you guys run an aim dash. So just explain how you use that and what you use it for, Autosport Labs stuff.
So on the Autosport Labs side of things, we use one of their Podium Connect units. And what's really nice about it is we have the aim dash and it's tied into everything on the car. But, rather than calling and asking the guy over the radio, hey, what's the fuel level? It's all connected to that Autosports Lab piece, and it broadcasts everything that you see in the car to the pits. So, we can look and see, oh, he's got 8% fuel left. Let's start moving and shaking and get ready for a pit stop. Or, oh, it looks like the car's running a little hot. Or, the predicted lap time is slower than expected. Is everything okay? And you can actually follow the car around the track with the GPS. I mean, it's really a nice tool to have for the guys on the pit wall. And once we kind of got it all integrated right, I mean, it works pretty seamlessly, especially Brent took the unit back and did an update on it for us. We are having some issues with reception at some tracks, and since then it's been flawless. 100% recommend this product to people because it takes away a lot of stress for the guys on the pit wall. You can see exactly what's going on. You're not like constantly badgering the guy in the car like, I need to know this, I need to know this. Like, when our alternators are failing constantly, like, there wouldn't be a race where, like, hey, how's the voltage? How's the fuel level? How's this? And you're just like, okay, this sucks. But now you can just look at everything and know it's there and it's been really nice. And the Pyrotech cell was a great piece. Like, we kind of got it buttoned up this last weekend, but everything that you would expect from a quality fuel cell and then some. And they're really great to work with. When I called them up and said, hey, this is what we need, this is what we're using it for, and he kind of talked about some of the nuances of what we need at the bottom of the cell to prevent starvation, how to integrate it, where it should go. So
Trapdoors and stuff.
hats off to those guys.
I guess so. My final question for you guys: what's your favorite stint to drive? Lightning round, Martin.
First day or last stint? Last day.
Phil.
Yeah.
I always end up in the middle. I did have a chance to do the final stint at ORP once, and we were going to podium. I think we were maybe second, and then the diff exploded. So,
Gregor.
Oh, the starts are super fun. So I love the starts, but finishing a race is great too. But the starts are probably my favorite.
Oh. Yeah. Josh.
I usually go second, and I really like that because I get to take over a lot from Martin or Gregor, so we're always in a pretty good position, and no one's screwed up yet, so I get to hold that torch.
Mitch?
Yeah, a lot of times I'm in third, and I'm the guy who has to like either keep us where we're at or try to get us someplace, and that's all I can hope to do.
I found over the years that the same people end up doing the same stints all the time. So it's I know that over the years I've had some good battles with Gregor on track, and when I drove this infamous black and red BMW.
Praying Mantis.
Yeah, which is still around with a new team and some new parts, and yeah, but so no, I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me, and next week we're going to talk to a new team and see what their what they have to say about Lucky Dog. They ran their first race at Button Willow this year. Eurotech Tuning out of Las Vegas. They had 2 cars at Button Willow, so they run a diesel Jetta and a BMW 5 Series. So 2 kind of not common cars, but it should be fun. But I really appreciate you guys hanging out with us, and we had tons of people watching, and yeah, it was awesome having you guys on.
Our pleasure.
Thanks, Jason.
Well, hopefully we'll see you at Pacific. If not, Portland. If not, well, Willow Springs is before Portland, so make the tow.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Take care, guys.
Later, guys.
Bye.